I am Susan Stewart. I am the owner, and I don't like to call myself the fashion designer, but I guess I'm the designer of Strapping Fit. So, I was raised by some truly insane people from New York City, from the Bronx, but I grew up in Palm Springs, California, which is a very interesting town in Southern California. It's very vacation-centric, a lot of older people, mostly retired, lots of golf, lots of tennis, lots of pastels, if you want to talk about fashion. I started my career as a golf professional. I started playing golf when I was a little kid, and that whole industry is very masculine, and not in like a masculine, like female can be masculine. It's a very macho, male-oriented profession, and I just was having a really hard time grasping that being my career. So I ended up kind of getting into retail within golf. I ended up becoming a buyer for resorts early in my career, and I did that for probably about 10-15 years. And it's just kind of all led me to this brand, which is kind of funny. Like, just working plain, boring retail and being a buyer led me to getting kind of ants in my pants, and decided to go out alone and start my own store and start my own clothing brand. So that's kind of my background. I have no education. I'm the worst. I went to Palm Springs High School. I got my high school diploma. After that, I was just one of those people. I was a big-time art student. I was looking to go to some private art schools, and they were just way out of my price range. And I just decided that instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on education that wasn't going to really help me, just to kind of go it alone. And unfortunately, that's what brought me into the golf world, because that's what I fell back on. That's kind of what I knew. So I didn't go to college. I'm a high school graduate. That's about it. So yeah, no big background, unfortunately. So I don't know if this is just like my age group. I'm 38. I'm gonna be 39 on Thursday. My generation never really talked about gender that much. It was kind of like male, female. If you're either gay, bi, or lesbian. There was nothing really else than that. And then you're either, like, in the lesbian world, you're either lipstick or butch. And so I've always considered myself a female. I've never felt particularly masculine or feminine, so if I had to pick, I would probably say I'm very androgynous. I'm kind of in the center. But I definitely identify as female. And since I am from, I guess I hate to call it old school because I'm like 38, but I guess I would classify myself as androgynous, or like a soft butch lesbian female. She, I don't know the heck they all the pronouns. I'm the worst. This is my age group. I don't know why. So anyways, there you go. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just feel like I have a lot of lesbian friends, and we just are all kind of that same age group, and we never really that's who you are. And I think it's fascinating, all this stuff that's happening with gender, because as a kid growing up, I've always felt kind of in between. I've never felt one or the other. As far as social norms, I'm definitely, like, I have a lot of feminine qualities and I have a lot of masculine qualities, but I just, like, you know, that's just my generation. It's like, we're lesbian, we're a soft butch lesbian. It's like, all right, whatever. So I think growing up in, like, in Palm Springs, I always feel like a European man is my clothing style. I also call myself Connecticut Dad, because I like to wear madras and I like to wear polos, and like I have more Sperry's than anyone should ever own as a human. And like, so my personal style it's very masculine. It's always, I don't wear women's clothing hardly ever. Like I don't, there's nothing on me that's female. Even my shoes are male shoes. But that being said, it's not hyper masculine. I like to wear casual, comfortable, kind of European, lots of colors, and I don't mind wearing short shorts kind of style. So I would never classify my clothing and my personal style as feminine, but I would never, like, I'm not a tough dude. I would be I'd be a pushover dude. If I was like, psh, a little wind comes by and I fall. That's the guy I am. So, my store came from my clothing line, actually. Like, I think most of the people you're going to talk to that have clothing lines have an entrepreneurial spirit as well. It's not necessarily just like, oh, I needed this, so I made it. It's like, you kind of wanted to be in business for yourself anyways, and that was something that you're really interested in. My clothing line came from just purely me having a really hard time finding stuff that fit me. Like, I really love button-ups. I love wearing ties and bow ties, and the stuff that is made for women is very like darted, and the necklines are too big to wear anything, and everything's so tight and form-fitting, and it's just, and then you get to guys, and I have double D boobs, and a big gut and big hips. You start trying to put on like a man shirt, and it's the shoulders are too long, and the sleeves are too long, and then it doesn't fit in your chest area. So it was just kind of like that frustration of like trying to find something when you have a shapely figure that's gonna work. So, and on top of that, the thing that makes my line different than a lot of other lines that are out there, the queer lines, is that as a buyer for many years, I know that there's ways to get things a little cheaper. And my line, my shirts are $29. So I wanted to make something really, really affordable because I'm not going to have the coolest, nicest fabrics in the most chic style, but I feel like you should be able to get a cool, comfy flannel for under $30 that fits your form, you know, or at least your personal style and how you like to express yourself. And I do actually have cisgendered men that are just short that wear my stuff. They're like, or they do have a little bit more hip to them, you know, than they have a little bit more than just the average the box that the major fashion designers kind of put everyone into. So it was a necessity, and it was like, I want to be a business owner, and this is something that's a need. And I think that anyone who's successful in business, that's kind of how you have to approach things. It's like, if you just want to make something, that's great, but it has to be fulfilling some sort of need for the public as well. So that's where it came from. So it was in 2015. It was actually after my wedding, because I was having a really, really, really hard time finding a dress shirt. Now that I'm in the queer fashion world, which makes me laugh because I'm such not, when you see my line, you're like, fashion. I started meeting really cool other queer brands, and I'm sure half of them are people that you've like interviewed, like Kieran Finch, Laura and Kelly are amazing, and then Twee and Dapper Boy, you know, they're all these people, like you start meeting them and you're like, oh, this was already out there. I wish I had known about you before my wedding. So, but my particular brand started like because I was having a really hard time, and it was just frustrating. So, and I had to make do. Even for my wedding, I made do with like a woman's shirt that barely fit, and it was kind of popping open in half my pictures. Thank God for Photoshop. But, you know, it was just like that. I'm like, I have the background. I know how to manufacture. I know where I can go to get things done. I'm like, how hard is it going to be to make a pattern? Come on, it's not that big of a deal. Let's do this. So that was kind of how it all came about. 2016 is when the first prototype came out. Like, 2015 was almost like just convincing my wife it was okay to go into business. And then also coming up with, like, a pattern and finding someone who understood what I was talking about, because it's so funny, like there's little things you had to fix on a men's shirt to make it work. There's little things you had to fix on a women's shirt to make it work, but for some reason saying like I would like a women's shirt with no darting and a slimmer neckline to like pattern makers, they were just like, wait, what? Or like saying, you know, I want a men's shirt with a smaller neckline and like shorter sleeves and maybe a little bit more room in the chest and the hips. People just were not, they are so programmed that it was like, it took me a while to find a pattern maker that would work with me. And I worked with a little company in Humboldt. It was very expensive here in the US to get it done. I was really shocked. But yeah, so it took me like about probably about maybe 5 or 6 months to get the right pattern. So then 2016 is when I launched like the actual line online. Yeah, it's just me. It's just me. Yeah.
Other people?
No, it's just me. My wife has a normal job, is what she calls it. She's like, I have the insurance. That's what she always says. No, it's just me. My wife does not have the entrepreneurial spirit. She's very much keeps us sane, which is a very good yin and yang, because you need that. All these couples that do it together, I'm like, God bless you. If my wife and I were working together, we would not be wives. We would be divorced. So no, there's just me. Yeah, so strapping was just kind of like, it plays along a lot of stuff. It's kind of, I have a really weird sense of humor, so I'm okay when people make fun of things as well. But strapping is like, strapping young man, big, tough, strong, and it's made for like little people. They're not maybe big, and they're tough and strong, but they're not big. And then also I make neckties, so strapping was kind of a play on words for like strapping. And then there's lesbian thing like strapping, and there's other stuff. And my Target name is Strap On. People do call it that. Here, I have a store that you're in right now, and it's a gift shop, but I named it after my brand because I'm really proud of it. And like, I'm the only person in Sacramento you can come into my shop and buy gender neutral clothing, and more specifically, masculine clothing for women. So I'm like, I'm naming it Strapping, and everyone calls it Strap On. It's fine. That's what the name. It's funny because it doesn't make sense at all in my gift shop, but it makes perfect sense for my clothing line. Yeah. So, I mean, this is where we're going to get really honest. Online, trying to sell my clothing, it is not easy to have a queer clothing line. The ones that are super successful, I really don't know what their magic is. It's really, really difficult. When I was just doing my clothing line, I was at home trying to get as much Instagram and social media time as I could, as much publicity as I could, as many bloggers and whatever trying to wear my stuff. And it was really, really, really difficult. And people also, they're not used to having something that fits them, and buying online for something they've never ever tried before freaks them out. So I ended up kind of scrapping just being strapping solo and just having clothing solo. And I opened a store. One was to basically, I don't know, show some Sacramento pride too, and like, hey, this is a queer company coming in, and here's my stuff. But also just to survive as an entrepreneur, it's like I had to add everything else. I have to have a gift shop. The one thing I'm really proud of because of my gift shop is that I can also have other queer businesses be a part of my store in places that they never would think of. Like maybe most of them, maybe they are in boutiques, but I know a lot of queer businesses have a really hard time getting into boutiques because people don't understand the concept. So by having this store, it's been nice for me because I have 6. Well, that's including myself, but 6 queer women-owned brands in my shop, and that makes me happy because it's not just me I'm helping. I can kind of like help other people as well. But yeah, having it just a brand, and my day-to-day is running a gift shop and trying to get out there as well. Like, hey, support these other women, support myself, support. Be proud to be queer here in Sacramento and not afraid. But as far as just selling clothing, it was tough, and I honestly didn't think I was going to survive, so I had to make an adjustment. So I have right behind me, I have Lucky Skivvies. She's a gal from Brooklyn. It's gender neutral underwear, geared to fit women a little bit more, but it has a little pocket for the boys. I also carry local Sacramento couple Zen Threads. It's a wife couple that's right down the street, and they do pretty much like just regular printing and stuff, but they do like some queer stuff as well. I have, look at all this stuff's like right behind me. I have Stuzo. They're from Los Angeles. Live Your Truth. I don't know if you've met with those guys. Yeah, so Uzo and Stony. And then I also have, which I don't have in hand shot right now, but I have Teresa from Hella Bay. She's in Oakland. I don't know if you've talked to her at all yet, but she does really cool empowering women empowerment and cultural empowerment for the Black community as well. So, and then like really cool Hella stuff for Northern California. So yeah, so I mean I feel good about like being able to promote some queer people as well, and all women. I didn't mean for that, guys. Sorry. It wasn't me being sexist, I swear. And then me, Strapping's in here as well, of course. I mean, the business model originally was to be a brand and to like kind of change with seasons, colors and patterns and stuff, and have like an affordable like option for people, because spending $150 on a shirt isn't always accessible to everyone. So that was my business plan. It's just the popularity thing is really hard. If you're being a brand, like, I mean, Supreme's the perfect example. It's a t-shirt that says Supreme and they can sell for like $800. It's like, popularity comes into play with that. And I just don't have the following. Sacramento is a great town, but we're 2 hours from San Francisco, and you think that would help, but it's still kind of like a little behind the times when it comes to fashion and understanding of gender, and the need for gender. I've had people ask me, like, what's this shirt? And I explain, I'm like, it's for masculine wear for women. Why would they need that? And it's like, ooh, really? And I'm like, that, I feel like women, it's like very understandable. Like, we all have seen Ellen. You're like, no? I mean, we've been watching that for years, for decades, like women that are more masculine, wearing masculine clothing. I didn't think it was like such like a... But for some people, if you're in a town like this that's a little bit behind the times, it got really difficult. So business model was to switch it up and have a platform where I could have a business that runs smoothly in the gift shop, in the comedy, in the fun stuff, which is like my world. And then also to provide like a way to like introduce queer things to people. So yeah, like tonight we were gonna have Twee from Twee Custom Clothers come here and do suit fittings. She's been here 3 times. She's getting a nice little following here in Sacramento because people are desperate for it. They're like, oh my god, I would love to get a suit made for my body that's masculine. It's like, what concept? Educating people, because I'm a part of the queer community, like we were talking about earlier, just me being 38 and not being 28. It's like, even with queer people, I talk about with my peers, and we're like, gender's still like, even though some of us play a gender role that's a little different, we're still like, oh wait, what pronoun? Huh? So it's like, it's new, and when it's not in your everyday life, or it's not something that you even like think about, it is really different. So I mean, I'm happy you're doing this, because people are gonna look back and be like, people in 2018 were idiots. This is so normal for us now. This isn't normal for us now. Yeah. So the ones that are with my brand, I have, and I'll show them to you. I'm not too far off screen there. So I do ties. The thing that's different about these ties are 51 inches. A standard man's tie, or standard tie, is 58 inches. So if you're under 5'6", you're basically tucking your tie into your pants, or like making the world's biggest knot, because you just keep tying it to make it fat, and it's a hot mess. So 51 inches. That was the first thing I came out with. It's such a simple fix, and this, like, the people that make patterns, obviously don't even make patterns, the people that make the ties weren't like, oh, it was just like cut a couple inches off, and they're like, okay, and done. So that was the easiest. Then I also have a long sleeve flannel, and these are both $29, so they're not going to be like the most high fashion. We have a long sleeve flannel, and then we also have a short sleeve option, and these both come in 4 different colorways. Which I don't have with me currently. And then that's pretty much all I have in my line. And then I have accessories like hats and tie clips and things like that, but they're not anything that's specially made. All of my shirts right now, everything's kind of ceased in production. One thing people don't understand that aren't in manufacturing or fashion design, unless you're making it yourself, small batches are like impossible. And especially if you're trying to get a price point where I am, everything I have is stocked because I have such high inventory still. I probably won't be coming out with any other shirts for another year. So, I mean, I don't think it'll stop completely. I pray to God, who knows, you'll see this video and be like, it stopped, Susan. But yeah, the production of my shirts, I actually worked really hard to get a manufacturer that would give me 100 units per style, which is actually pretty good, and still keep that price, but it's overseas, and I'm sure we'll go into that later. But still, like, selling all that stuff to like it's like a small niche of a small population that, you know, masculine wear for women. Like, there's not that many straight identified female that dress in masculine wear. I've kind of almost revamped my brand, like here in Sacramento, just to not scare people off with the flannels, to be like, it's a very cool cut flannel. And it sucks. And this is gonna be good for you because I don't always tell people that it's gender neutral, because some people really get freaked out. The thing about wearing a queer brand, it like scares them, like I'm gay, or like, oh my God, I'm wearing a queer brand. I sold it to like straight men that are short. I don't tell them. I'm like, strapping, you're so big and strong. Because my placket's on the right side, like a man's shirt. There's no darting or any cuts that are going to make it look feminine. So if there's a little guy, he's like, oh my gosh, this fits really good. I'm like, yes, it does. There's a little bit extra in here. I'm like, that's fine. It's for comfort. So, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, I'm not stopping making them, but we're slowing it down. Mm-hmm. I ramble. You gotta. I mean, so as much as I like wild prints, like I love wild prints, I played it really safe. All of my shirts are very classic, almost like what the Gap does. I kind of always geared my brand towards that person, someone who likes classic fashion, because I don't have the money to keep up with what the new trends are. So I chose basic flannels, lots of blues and navies and grays, and I think the wildest one is the burgundy one. Woo, burgundy! For the simple fact that it has a mass appeal, because I'm already playing in a market that's so small, and it's like queer, lesbians, or trans men, and then masculine. So it's like, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, so you have to be as broad to that little baby group, because if you go even farther, like, and then this kind of person who likes wild Hawaiian print, it's like it just keeps getting too small. So mine was about mass appeal. For the actual design, I started with a shirt that I actually felt pretty good in, but just needed some tweaks. So I took, and I'll tell you what that is. It is a Uniqlo women's shirt, and it's something about Asian clothing. I think Uniqlo's from Japan. I'm not sure. Don't butcher me if it's not.
I think it is. Yeah.
I think it's Japanese.
I think so, yeah.
They make their sleeves a little bit shorter on the Uniqlo shirt, and they have necklines that fit. And I've never found a neckline that fit on a woman's shirt ever. And this was like just a plain Oxford shirt. And I was like, well, this is freaking pretty close. The only thing, they had a little bit of darting. They were a little short, and they were like, they had really good room in the chest and stuff, but they were like just a little bit feminine. So I took that shirt to a pattern maker and I said, this is rad, but I need this, and this, and changed, and I'd like the placket on the opposite side so that if I have a trans fellow wearing it, he's not going to feel like I'm in a woman's shirt. You know, so that was kind of the adjustments, and then they came back with the pattern. We had a sample made. It was pretty good, had a few adjustments done, and that's kind of how the shirt became. And then they gave me a digital print, or a digital pattern, and I sent that to China, to my factory in China, and my one representative that I was dealing with, she had a very big difference in language. We're like always like, no, I'm insulting you, you're insulting me. We're just back and forth all the time. They made me a sample in a couple different fabrics that I chose, and then I got to feel them, look at them, have someone try them on, and then just back and forth until you got the one you liked. So it's a little process. The nice thing about sending it off to China, for people that are watching this that don't know, my sample shirt here in the US cost $500. My sample shirt in China cost me $20. So sending it back and forth in China was not such a hard task, even with like shipping. It was so much less to have a sample made. I think it cost me like, I think it was $35 a shirt with shipping. So obviously you could almost get 12 or 13 shirts for the price of one. And that's another reason why I was very into going overseas, just for the simple fact that it was saving me as a entrepreneur some money. So there's that. And then you have a shirt. And then 100 pieces per style later, you got a shirt. The first thing I designed was the flannel. The flannel, like you can see the plackets on this same side as a male's placket. The neckline is, I think it's 14 inches. Might be even a little bit smaller. Average woman's neck is around 13, I think. So it's just a little bit extra to give a little bit. It's got a smaller collar width as well, so it kind of keeps it all in proportion to who you are. If you have smaller, shoulder width is smaller. Boop, boop. We did a straight line across the back, so it was a little bit more of a masculine cut rather than like, something with like a little rouging or whatever. Rouging? Again, not a fashion designer. You can see that it's a very square cut as far as there's no darting. And then the sleeve length is kind of interesting. It's, I want to say it's 21 inches. So it's a lot shorter than a man's shirt, but it's a very masculine presenting, and when it's on, it's got a very crisp masculine look. And then we did, with the short sleeve, I changed up stuff a little bit. What I was finding with the long sleeve was that women with boobs were having a little bit more of a hard time, so we made a little bit more room in the short sleeve. The neck's the same. This short sleeve, it's a little bit longer than a woman's short sleeve shirt would be, but a lot shorter than a guy's. Again, it's a very boxy cut. There's no darting. This time I did add the little extra here, and what that did was allow some room for your boobs without making the shirt more boxy than it already was. Yeah, and it gave you a little bit of this. Actually, it's like the squared off back like that did make it a little bit tight. And then also with this pattern, for people that don't know fabric, when you have an up and down pattern like this and there's not enough stretch, which I found there's not much stretch this way, it's all kind of on the bias. They couldn't really cut it on the bias because of the pattern that I chose and the flannels. So with my short sleeve shirts, I ended up getting an all over pattern so that they could cut it on the bias and then give it like a lot more stretch. So voila. I mean, I think that like, and it might be my age group again. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres is always my favorite. Besides her personality, let's take her personality out of it because everyone loves Ellen. I don't like to wear a garbage bag. But she's really stylish too. She's very fashionable. I also look at men, and I usually look at like, again, I think it has to do a little bit with my styling, a little bit of a European man's, because not every, just because you're masculine doesn't mean that you're dowdy and boring. Like, I don't know how to say that, but it's like every lesbian's like the lumberjack. It's like, I'm gonna kick my glass. Not everyone's, I don't know. I like to make things kind of fun and fresh and exciting, and that's kind of what, me as a human, I like to come across in my personality. So that's kind of where I go. But I'm trying to think of guys that I would follow. There's all these guys that, like, Ryan Gosling's probably someone I really love, his style, because he's like beautiful, handsome man, but if you look at his clothes, they're really kind of like European as well, and kind of really fresh, refreshing, and he'll wear tighter things, shorter sleeves. He wears his little shirt, very, very gay man, like with the button down here and stuff, and like really tight rolled sleeves. So yeah, Ellen and Ryan Gosling, two beautiful humans. Strapping. Yeah, so the first one was that whole with the short sleeve shirt, my first flannel. The sleeves are a little short if you get past a certain height. So I kind of almost geared my clothes a little bit too petite. So when I did my second batch, which was with the short sleeve, I went back to the drawing board and had some more pattern. I had the pattern adjusted and I had some more samples sent. But I feel like it's fixed, and like my short sleeve sells like, gosh, at least 7-to-1 to my flannels. So yeah, I've had feedback. Nothing, the only like negative, like people in the queer market, like I've had like crazy, really adorable, tearful people come in and just like thank me, which is weird because I'm like, you're welcome, here's a shirt. But I think that's what's the important thing about what's happening in the whole queer market right now, and like gender neutral clothing, is that there's a lot of people that are desperate to find something that fits. It's just like going pant shopping. It's miserable. When you feel very masculine and your body's not, and you're trying to find something that fits your personality as well as like, you know, your gender expression or whatever, when you find something that fits and makes you feel good and confident, like I've had people like straight up break down. I've had moms break down, like, because they're like, especially here in Sacramento, because there's a lot of young queer children that are not children, they're teenagers, sorry, that are transitioning from female to male, and if nothing else, I make them feel comfortable in here. But they get like their shirt for prom. Like I do have a white plain basic shirt. I should preface that they're not going flannel for prom, and they just like, you know, moms have cried just because their kid feels normal and accepted. So that's been the only weird. It's weird. I love it, but it's happy weird. It's like, well, I don't know if anyone goes in the Gap and starts crying. This t-shirt fits so good, and they start crying. So it's an emotional experience for a lot of people, and that's kind of cool. But not in the queer community. I think everyone in the queer community is pretty down. The only thing that I've ever had is like, maybe because that I'm having things made in China and not here in the U.S. That's the only negative comments I've ever had. Like, why aren't you making it here in the U.S.? And like, usually I can explain it and people understand. Like, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, go to sweatshops or anything like that. It's just like, that's kind of where our fashion is made. And unfortunately, and I'm trying to be progressive enough to be like, if the mainstream can do it, why can't queer people do it? So that's the only negative. Funding is really hard. I've learned a lot about business in the short period that I wanted to do this. I personally funded all of my stuff. I had to do a lot of it on credit cards and like just kind of hope and pray, because something people don't understand about business funding is that you have to have, it doesn't matter how wonderful your personal credit is, if you don't have business credit, it means nothing. Also, I didn't do any crowdfunding or anything because I wanted to, I don't know, I feel like some people get stuck in that. So like every time they want to make something new, they crowdfund, and people, like, I just didn't want to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth. And that being said, I know a lot of businesses that are doing really well because they did crowdfunding, and it was almost like, you know, a really smart way to get your marketing out there too. So I didn't think about it. I just went in straight with my credit card and said, let's do this. Poor wife. That's why my wife doesn't work with me. She's like, oh, she just holds on. Holds on for dear life. Thank God she's not here. She was going to be here with me. There would just be eye rolling the whole time. There would be, like, historically, there's that couple. My wife's just like, there'd be a lot more sass going on right here. No, I mean, I would love to be. I would love it. There's nothing more than I would be like, made in the USA, because I feel like people really want that. But it's like, man, and I'm so proud of the people that do it. But as a businesswoman, I was like, let's see if we can do this for a reasonable price. So I don't feel like it's unethical. I just feel like you have to be smart and check out factories and make sure these people are good people. Like, you know, obviously there's no, like I said, sweatshops involved. But you can do that by finding out who makes the Gap's clothing. Our internet is lovely because it tells you a lot. You can say, who makes this brand's thing? Every single piece of clothing out there has an RN number, and that number is the factory's, basically their code. So you can find out where everything's made, and it's like, there's ways to go about it where, you want to be as ethical as you can, but being made in the USA doesn't necessarily mean that you're just. Well, that's it. Like, people can't. I've had people, I've told people about other brands and stuff, and they're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I can't afford that. And it's like, I got you, understand. And there's something to be said about using a local, obviously, especially in your own town. Like, I know there are a couple brands that are Brooklyn based and whatnot that are using factories in their town. Mm-hmm. That's rad. That's direct impact on your community. And you can talk to those people and you can visit them and you can see what's happening. But, I looked at a broader picture of my mind always goes to the next generation because it's going to take a while for fashion to catch on or a brand to catch on. And I feel like younger people, teens and 20s, spend more money on clothes, as far as, not more money, but they're buying a lot. They're that's what they're really interested in is fashion. When you get to my age, it's like, meh. Do I have to take my sweatpants off? What? So, the millennials and the next generation of people are definitely more open to this gender freedom. So it's I was gearing my brand towards that 25 and under, someone who can't afford a ton of money, or doesn't even want a really fancy suit, because not everyone wants a fancy suit. Some people, I know tons of humans that like I said, don't want to get out of their sweatpants, and you have to go to a wedding, you're like, ugh, I don't want to dress up. So it's those are my people. My people are the ones that just want to kick it in a flannel and have something that fits. And if you have to go to a wedding, you can button up and throw on a clip-on tie and you'll be fine. There you go. Put your beer in a koozie. So you're classy. Those are my humans.
I love it.
Strapping. I'm just kidding. So stupid. Yeah, the most successful thing is honestly just those human interactions. I haven't set the world on fire with my brand. No, Oprah's not calling me to do an interview. I'm not on Shark Tank. Ellen has not called me and said, hey, Susan, can you fill my wardrobe? I'm not setting financially the world on fire, but I know that there are a lot of people, and I've seen them in person, that have given me hugs, that have written me cards. So the most success that I've had is that I've touched humans' lives that needed it. And that was my whole goal, was to have something out there that wasn't there, that someone could afford. And when someone buys one of my shirts and it fits, they usually buy the whole collection because they're like, $30, awesome, let me buy every color because I finally found a shirt that fits. So being able to touch a person's life has been the most successful. Financially, I got a gift shop now that has other people's brands. I am the #1 gift shop in Sacramento, the Queer Lady. And I'm known as the Queer Store, which is really weird. So I'm like, rad. I don't know, we're all such a small, it's funny, the queer fashion world is so small and in a niche, and we all know each other and love each other. It's kind of a cool little community, and we all do different things, so different, and it's great because now when I have people that look for stuff that I don't I had Twee come here 4 times. I've only been open, my store's only been open for 10 months, and I've had Twee here 10 times, 4 times, that was a lot, to do suit fittings, because there are humans that are asking me for it because they're like, oh my gosh, more, please more. Mm-hmm. So knowing each other, I send people to Kieran Finch all the time too. When I have business people out here that are buying custom suits, I'm like, hey, there's some really beautiful dress shirts. Call Kieran Finch or go on the website and get some stuff, get some pocket squares, and they do. So it's we're a small little community within ourselves. So I'm not surprised that Twee said, hey, but yeah, my brand is not that successful, honestly, unfortunately, but that's okay. I'm adaptive, so I'll serve my little community here in Sacramento and have my online presence. be not that, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. We all love each other.
Yeah.
No one's in competition with each other, which is great, because we shouldn't be in competition. Even like with small businesses around me, like here in Sacramento, I don't want them to be my competition. I want Target to be my competition. I want someone giant who's not going to lose anything having me around. I want to push their buttons. I don't want to push someone who's trying to do the exact same thing as me out of the market, because we need them to be vocal. It's like, I'm not, my store is not making this big splash. If one of us does, that's awesome, because it's only going to drag the rest of the community out, like, hey, by the way, these all exist as well. So yeah, no, we're very tight knit and we're all in the same struggle, and some of us are doing it better than others. I'm on the others. I'm not the some of us are doing it better than others. So yeah, I mean, and we all share kind of ideas and struggles and successes as well. So yeah.
What are you most proud of so far?
I mean, like I said, the human interaction is the thing I'm most proud of. I'm really proud of my wife for letting me do this and not saying no. No, I mean, I don't know, like, as far as my clothing brand goes, I'm really proud that I was able to succeed in getting a product made that was in that price range, because it was really hard. It was not an easy task, and the more I learned about fashion as I was going and manufacturing, it was really a tough task to have something made that actually came out like, the right look and size and feel that was under that, $40, under $30 mark. So that was tough, but I did it. I think I was most surprised by like the pattern makers, like, because I see pattern makers and people that make clothing as artists as well, because like you obviously, it's a skill, but it's also like pattern maker especially is a very talented human who can like kind of visualize and measure and stuff. There was a lot of people that were really like confused by the concept, and that was like, really? I don't know if any of the other, I think I've talked to other brands and they've had similar experiences, but it's like, there was just like this, it was almost like, oh, is this a novelty costume kind of thing? It's like, no, it's a normal shirt. It's like, it's not that hard. It's a masculine shirt for a female. We can do the opposite, and I wish that somebody would do that, like a feminine shirt for a man's body. It's like, God, we're like, I feel bad for that side of our spectrum, because there's so much social garbage when it comes to men being feminine. Even like those European guys with their feminine clothing, it's like there's so much more psychological problems with that I'm hoping that whoever's watching this 100 years from now, that's fixed. Because for God's sakes, you can be a straight male that's feminine. It's okay. Or you can be a gay guy or wherever you are, bisexual, wherever you are on the spectrum of sex, and be feminine. It's okay. It's not a big deal. God, that's like, I feel like women we're like, yeah, but masculine, whatever. Like, and women are like tomboy, like that whole, like, it's like okay to be a tomboy, but like sissy boy, or, that just makes me sad. So I'm hoping I'm not that human, because I can't be the champion for that movement, because I don't know enough about feminine clothing on masculine or men's bodies. But I'm hoping I hope that's the next video you do. I hope it is. I mean, like, because who doesn't love Prince? Like, everyone loved Prince. And Prince was like a very sexual, I think he was straight. He never came on to be anything but straight. Who knows? He was like the epitome of like, I'm here, I'm Prince. And like, women go freaking gaga. I know so many straight women and gay women and men who are just like, oh my God, Prince. He's like just dripping sex. And he's so feminine. If you watch his early videos, he used to wear like,
and the shoes.
He'd wear like women's high cut leotards. He'd wear like the French cut up here and like crazy shoes and like makeup and stuff. And people were just like, oh, he was like 5 foot nothing. I think he was like 4'8". I don't know how tall he was. And he was just oozing sex. And like, for some reason, if a regular, just average Joe did that down the street, people would have a fit. It's so weird. It's so weird. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm queer. This is, I don't know, this is a cue. I'm queer, so that's obviously I'm not the person to ask. I would love a straight dude to talk about this. I would love to see what he says. He'd be like, yeah, whatever. I like my mom's high heels, whatever. No, he doesn't. The biggest struggle is really getting my name out there. Like, I didn't realize, I thought it was, you always have, and I think this is a healthy way to go into business, you always have this idea that you're just gonna like go in and everyone's gonna get the concept and they're gonna love it and they're gonna be like, what? This is amazing. So my biggest struggle was like hitting that wall of like, I would go to boutiques and they would straight up say like, I don't know where to put you because everything's in such a category. It's like, I have my men's side, I have my women's side. I don't know how to explain this to my customer. And I would be like, but it's so easy. And I'm like, you're going to be on the forefront. It's going to be amazing. And I had one store in that is based in the Bay called Therapy Stores. I used to work for them a while ago, and they would give me so much love and support and let me do my thing. But they never purchased stuff to put in their stores. They would give me pop-up shops till I was blue in the face. Like I could come every day if I wanted to, but they needed a human there to like explain it. And I think that's the biggest thing that's like kind of like giving me like that Charlie Brown moment where you're like, oh, this isn't gonna work. Shit. Because my whole concept was something affordable and getting it into mainstream. Being like that thing that breaks the seal and being like, this isn't just my website. This is gonna be carried in Target, or this is gonna be carried in whatever reasonably priced, store there is out there, or whatever boutiques in the area. And boutique owners would always say, wow, this is rad, but I don't know how to sell it. So that was the most disappointing thing, that America's just not America, the people are not ready for it. So it's almost like the realization that you have to do it yourself. And that's hard. It's hard when you're peddling $29 shirts to make a living, when you're like, it's like door-to-door salesman. Like I have my little, like, my vacuum cleaners. I'm like, here's the shirts for you. So I'm doing well here in my shop because I'm not relying on my shirt and I'm getting the word out to my town. And my town has been very supportive and I have people that come get my shirts all the time, but there's a point where you get every shirt in the line. It's like, well, so yeah, there's my disappointment. Mainstream society. But there are brands, and this is like totally off subject. This is you can still, it's on record. There are brands, and I'm so proud of them, like the Gap and Banana Republic is the one I'm talking about, that are making, and this is it's almost like kind of a kick in the butt because they call it the boyfriend shirt. It's like, my boyfriend give me a shirt, now I wear it. But they're starting to make those gender neutral shirts, but they still don't know how to market them, so they're calling them like, here's your boyfriend's pants, here's your boyfriend's shirt, now you can wear it. But they're starting to make them, and they actually are really nice cuts. They're not quite as masculine. It's like Ellen's line, and going back to Ellen DeGeneres, her line, if you look at it, Ed by Ellen, is still really feminine, and it's nothing Ellen would wear. So it's like kind of comical to me because she knows as a businesswoman, as a freaking bazillionaire, that people aren't ready for it. They love her. They love her name. They might want to wear a shirt like her, but it's going to be still a feminine cut. And Banana Republic is like, hey, we understand there's a gender neutral thing, but we're still going to make the placket on the left and we're still going to make it your boyfriend's shirt, not yours. So, anyways, go on. Yeah. Next question. No, that's so random. Sorry. No. I see that and I'm like, when are you guys gonna wake up? I think that's why kids are coming out so much earlier now. Yeah. One, because obviously, like, America's a little bit more calm. They're not like, throwing stuff at you if you're gay. Well, everywhere. And two, because like, the internet has opened your mind to being like, oh, I can be feminine and be gay, or I can love women and I can be totally like super lesbian, super femme. I can be super lesbian. I can be super femme. Like, my wife is ultra femme. Not ultra femme, but she's very feminine. She's straight passing is what I call her. And it's always been really hard on her because people always question her sexuality. And I think, like, even when I was young, I was always a tomboy. So it was like, okay, I'm gay. But I think if I were, like, really feminine, I would have been like, oh, am I? Because all you saw were, like, the tennis players, we're not gonna name who, with the mullets and the glasses, and then like your PE coaches that were really rough and tough. And I love masculine women. I love butch women. Obviously, I'm like soft butch. I wear a little makeup, but I was like, is that who I have to marry? Like in my head, I was like, oh, and they're all like 60 to 100. It's like, oh, they're all gonna be old and like. I'm sorry to the women. I love you. You're probably watching right now and like, fuck you. I'm sorry. You're lovely. But it messes with people like trying to figure out their sexuality when you don't realize that you can kind of be, you can be bisexual or you can be kind of like all over the place. It's okay. I'm happy that the spectrums are coming out because even when I was growing up queer, you were either like, when I first came out, you were either lipstick lesbian or butch. And I never fit either. And like, I'm obviously more masculine, so people would just be like, oh, you're a butch lesbian. And I'm like, oh, I don't, and like you try to bro up with them, like all the other butch lesbians, you're like, hey. And it's like, I never fit that. I was like, oh. And you always thought that these pretty girls, either wanted these pretty girls or these guys, these dudes. And I was like, oh. So it was really hard. So I'm happy spectrums are happening. Freaking don't go into queer fashion. That's all I have to say. Be Michael Kors and sell tons of purses to ladies. It's horrible. No, he's lovely. It's hard. It's hard. I think that's my only thing for whoever's watching this. Queer fashion is hard because you got to get the queers on board too. Like they get comfortable going to whatever. Like I go to J. Crew and I get my man sweater and I'm fine with that. It's like, try out a queer brand, you know, just try it. Support your community.